pretend for a second that anything is possible. Pretend you're a suburban dad, or mom, living on a tropical island. The day's come to a close. You're doing the dishes. You've let the dog out to do his thing. Suddenly, you hear it start to scratch at the back door in a very distressed way. You raise an eyebrow, so you go over and open the door, letting it run inside. You look out, but nothing is out of the normal, just the cold night greeting you. Your first thought is, it spooked itself by its shadow, so you close the door. As you walk back to the kitchen, you hear scratching in the back door, specifically the lower region. Darn it, not again, you think, as the scratching is familiar to that of crabs. This is nothing new. If it rains, they make their way inland from underground. You open the door with a broom to shoo the little guy away. You do not see a little guy. You see a big guy. You see a really big guy. A crab about the size of a person, as you panic, closing the door and locking it. The crab starts to scratch at your door. Holy crap, is that an enormous crab? You think. Maybe the dog had reason to be worried. Maybe you're seeing things. You look out the little window next to the door. Nope, you see the monstrosity that is the big crab. You run back into the kitchen to get your phone to call someone. Maybe animal services. Yeah, animal services should know what to do. Rather than being alone, you suddenly stop against a man with a metallic backpack on his person, spiky hair, white skin, brown eyes, and a brown long coat with a blue suit underneath it. Behind him, a woman, holding what looked like an iPad with dark skin, brown hair done up on the back, a red jacket, blue jeans, and boots. Logically, you ask what is going on, as the man states he is here about the crowd. You inquire if he is in animal services, to which he responds in a very unconvincing manner that he is. He goes through as the woman follows him right behind. Unaware what's happened next, you follow them to the back and see the man had opened the door and, using something from the backpack itself, was repelling the crab. As he yelled something in French, as the lady says something about it working. You realize how odd the situation is, as you ponder what made it get to this point. You then hear a man talking to you about your current situation as you look around, looking for the disembodied voice, narrating every action you make. You hold your hands in your head as this just gets crazier and crazier. You yell before a weird sound starts to play from a high note to a lower note. Familiarly, the sound of the titular science fiction series, Doctor Who. You also hear him say, Doctor Who has to be one of the greatest science fiction shows that have ever been made, as it essentially encompasses every possible facet of science fiction into one constant and almost coherent series that has been going on for the longest time. 60 years to be exact. I checked. It's one of the BBC's mainline series, even if it's had low ratings. It's a show that, thanks to a pair of headphones and an early subscription to Netflix when the online version started to make its rounds everywhere, I watched. And from the very first episode, I fell in love with the series, as it's had one of the biggest impacts on my life, akin to my love of science fiction, as I said in the Transformers episode. But like most things, art is inherently beautiful, but it has its flaws. Aside from the many good things Doctor Who does, such as the toys, mainly the TARDISes, the screwdrivers, and figures, its writing is good, but not stellar. Yes, this is where I point to Series 9? No, not 10, or 11, or 12, or heck, Series 13? No, since this video is not titled, Why I Hate Doctor Who. Unless it is and I forgot to check. No, it's not called that. It's called Why I Love Doctor Who, so yeah. This is not a hate video. More like a video where I sit down with a different cast and crew and tell them about how they could have done certain things better, but you can't control it all in this life, so I understand, hope things get better. So more like a counselor talking to a kid that got his jewel taken away, but has like 5 more hidden in his house that his parents don't know about, so he just goes to the park and smokes it. Don't know where that came from. Don't ask. My story with the titular time-traveling man/woman/alien started, as stated before, thanks to a pair of headphones and a Netflix subscription back when it was going the rounds. I had heard at the time about Doctor Who, but it wasn't until I watched it on Netflix from Series 1 of Modern Who to Series 7 with Matt Smith's Regeneration, spoiler alert by the way, that I actually understood what I was watching. To give you a brief understanding of what this series is, Doctor Who is a British science fiction TV series that has been running since 1963. The show follows the adventures of the Doctor, a time-traveling alien from the planet Gallifrey who explores the universe in a spaceship called the TARDIS. The Doctor is a quirky and eccentric character who often saves the day from various villains and monsters, including the iconic Daleks and Cybermen. With a new actor playing the Doctor every few years, the show has developed a large and devoted fan base, and has become a cultural phenomenon in the UK and around the world. This series is usually divided by the actors that played the Doctor, in addition to the long hiatus that the series took, that being the division between New Who and Classic Who, along with the actors. In order, at least of publication, it's as follows. Starting with the first Doctor being William Hartnell from 1963 to 1966, Patrick Troughton from 1966 to 1969, John Petrie from 1970 to 1974, Tom Baker from 1974 to 1981, Peter Davison from 1982 to 1984, Colin Baker from 1984 to 1986, Sylvester McCoy from 1987 to 1989, and a brief appearance in 1996, Paul McGann, 1966, Christopher Eccleston from 2005 only, David Tennant from 2005 to 2010, Matt Smith from 2010 to 2013, John Hurd as the War Doctor for the 2013 special, The Day of the Doctor, Peter Capaldi from 2013 to 2017, Jodie Whittaker from 2017 and 2022, and Joe Martin as the Fugitive Doctor briefly in 2020, and also 2022. With a surprise addition, that being the 14th Doctor being, again, David Tennant. So you could say, David Tennant, 2005 to 2024, and as long as he's going to be there. With the following one being Ncuti Gatwa from 2024 to the future. Essentially, this role has been used up by so many people. Heck, by children, if you want to include them. Or if you think the events that happened in Series 12's The Timeless Children is to be believed. Which is an episode I do not recommend, to be honest. Much less Series 13's The Flux, but we'll talk about that later. To sum it up in a more concise manner, it was a series that has been gnawing at my existence to watch over and over and over for the rewatchability. Because at least from New Who onwards, Doctor Who is practically a pick-a-season show that doesn't need much context from any of the things that are centralized in the series as a whole. That's not to say it does not need context in certain regards, but I can safely say that the context of each villain and character is set up in the episodes in a concise and understandable manner that it leaves little to be confused about. But even with that, even with the context, whether from the Doctor, the villains, or the character showcase, as things that can be revised and repaired. But let's talk about all the good things first. Doctor Who has a strong and beloved audience that has been there from the beginning. And with all its flaws, let's reflect on all the good things, starting with the main point of the series, that being a quirky character traveling in a box. The TARDIS, standing for Time and Relative Dimensions in Space, originally just called a time travel capsule but abbreviated to TT capsule, is a time machine that can go anywhere at any time, as do most time machines, I would hope. With a particular quirk of design, that being it's literally bigger on the inside than out. This confuses a lot of the people that ever come across the machine, which is with its more iconic phrase about the TARDIS being bigger on the inside than it is on the outside.
It's bigger on the inside.
Is it? I noticed.
It's one of the more recognizable things about the series due to its eldritch nature. Even once just going in a flux, I still don't get what the flux is. Don't ask me. I'll explain it as best as I can, you know. Another thing the series has done right is how to keep itself upright whenever an actor either gets too fussy or just doesn't want to play the role. That being regeneration. Or in the case of very classic early Who, or in the case of early classic Who, how they replaced the first Doctor when he was on the verge of literally dying from us. Oh. He suffered heart failure. That makes sense. So yeah, good thing they got that worked out. When a Time Lord, that's what the Doctor is by the way, is about to die, their entire body shifts gears and changes into a whole new being, whilst keeping the memories and knowledge intact for the most part. Everything else changes about them. Their face, their body, and their personality. Everything. And for the better too. It keeps every new series fresh at peak. It makes everything new and interesting. Another thing that is almost as well changing every time is the villains. And not just the Daleks, but the Cybermen, the Weeping Angels, the Zygons, the Sontarans, and even the Sea Devils when they returned for the near end of the current series, that being Series 13. Every new season, every new Doctor, there's always something to fear about the Daleks, whether they get new forms or we discover they've been here on Earth or longer, to how dark the history of the Cybermen can be in Series 10, when they literally took over one of the Doctor's companions, that being Bill. They just scooped her up because she was dead, and they put her in a lab, and they put her in her Cyberman body. And now she had little control over herself, besides being able to say stuff and, having a brain. And also how evil the Centaurans can be in Series 13, so that as well. The villains in Doctor Who are more iconic than more other science fiction franchises in my opinion. At the origin of the series, it was requested by one of the heads of the BBC not to have monsters, bugs, or robots of any kind in the series that could scare the children in any way. And the showrunners went with it. They gave us the most iconic aliens, androids, and salt shakers anyone could ever ask for. Not to mention the Master and his many faces and schemes. Every time the Master shows up, no one is ever quite sure what they're gonna do. And even when the writing can be done wrong, they always do the Master right. A bit dubious about Series 4 when he was close to regeneration, but I won't deduct points from it. And not to mention when executed right, iconically complex characters, that's also a win. For the Master and his evil ploys to either win the Doctor over to their side, try to kill them, try to save them from something or whatever it is they plan to do, there's always something selfish and malevolent about the Master that makes them almost human. Were it not for the psychopathic tendency to kill everything around them and the Doctor. Characters like Amy Pond and her dilemma on whether she should choose a life within the TARDIS forever or go the route of living a normal life with Rory. The dynamic of Rose and the Bad Wolf storyline. Donna Noble and how she became the Dr. Donna. Martha and her struggle to step away to be grounded and save lives at her level. The character dynamics, the emotional depths at which the show has reached, the witty dialogue it's used, all of it merits calling this show a great one. Even when it does things wrong. Doctor Who by no means is perfect. I mean, the BBC literally put it on hiatus for 16 years with an attempt at a movie before doing so, to try and regain its television darling. But a show that's run as long as Doctor Who, it's bound to have inconsistencies, weird canon, and much more. With such a long runtime, it's not that big of a surprise that a lot of its writers, whether surprised or recurring, agree. One of the major sins of the series is the fluctuating writing style. This is very apparent in New Who in regards to how social media works and how readily available all of this media is, to begin with. But not back then, at least for early New Who. I can't immediately point out to a disastrously bad episode, but I can say that a lot of Series 9 stuff, such as reintroducing the question on whether the 12th Doctor was a good man or not, when it was already done in Series 8, the storyline with the Shield, or the storyline with the Shielda, the immortal 15-year-old, that was that one girl in the Game of Thrones comes to mind. It's not to say those stories as a whole were bad to begin with, because it's always about tweaking what you have until it feels just right. But when executed poorly for the sake of just having something to fill the empty space, it feels wrong. It feels like very wrong. Especially when a lot of the things either go unanswered, such as the episode with the Sand Monsters and the plot in Series 9, or the story with Martha in Series 3 where the Doctor knew she was there and stuff happened, but didn't really react to her, if that makes sense. And not to put myself on a pedestal and not to pre-apologize, because why would I pre-apologize for my opinion? But the political statements need to either stop or slow down back to where they were. They need to slow down regarding intensity because it's very hard to focus on the story and feel for the characters if they're just trying to push some weird agenda that doesn't even make sense for the episode. Series 11 and 12 are a victim of this, with the inclusion of Jodie Whittaker, Bradley Walsh, Tassin Cole, and Mandip Gill. The diversity of the cast increased, and it shows that the BBC is willing to try almost anything, though I'm sure they've already done that before with not just aliens, but humans and humanoid aliens and all that. Also, all the gay people. I don't know why I laughed at. I'm not sure why I laughed at that. There are plenty of gay people in this series. I think it's safe to say they've explored the diversity route before very well. But even with that, most people can improve, so, you know, equal opportunity and all that. But Yas, Ryan, and Graham don't act like they're people. More like a springy wall to bounce back stuff to us and to the Doctor. To reference a moment from the great JX6, The Fall of Doctor Who, which is the 5-hour expose on Doctor Who, they don't act like they're set up to be. Yaz is supposed to be a police officer and does not enforce herself in that regard. Ryan isn't very handicapped, considering he has dyspraxia, all things considered. And Graham, he was a slab in the series, but he's alright, you know. He reminds me of a grandpa that's just trying to be there for you. Yeah. I like him. He's pretty cool. Draw hard around his face. He's alright. They don't do much aside from setting up for the Doctor, which is a shame to see because their trailers, at least the ones I saw, set them up as the most interesting companions that could be. Not to say that all companions are perfect, Series 7B Clara was not the best, nor was Belle Potts the greatest in Series 10, though she did play an excellent role. The idea is not to get as close to The idea is to get as close to perfect as possible. But they didn't even put all that much elbow grease into it in the later seasons. And when things got heated in action, the Doctor could just solve problems, like on the fly. I think the Doctor using their sonics so much has made writing them too easy. We gotta check and make sure that the doesn't do would function it still works. All jokes aside, there are these things I noticed that could be improved. Though I don't think I can come up with the most precise and concise response to the problems presented, I can say that if you make sure to focus on the story, characters, plot, the Doctor as a whole, and much more along with the companions specifically, you will get far. And I mean very far. Like, so far you can see Gallifrey. So, Russell T Davies, please. Please make this work. You made it work with Tennant before. Please make it work now. A lot of the issues from Doctor Who either stem from repetition, overuse of a plot device like in The Day of the Doctor with the Moments, and all Series 11 and 12 with the characters being blank slates. What the BBC should do more is stories like Series 8, where there was a consistent inclination towards a final point. Stories like Series 7A and 7B didn't do much in that regard, since the endings were not built up to, there wasn't really much anything. As such, they were kind of just unexpected endings. Like Series 7A ended with the pawns dying because of Weeping Angels, and 7B ended with the Doctor regenerating, even though he didn't fully know Clara all that well. It's though a little lighter in 7B, because it led to the Day of the Doctor and the Time of the Doctor, so I can kind of forgive it. But it wasn't clear, even towards the end. I'm saying this as a writer. So you may want to work on that, since at least with Series 8, there was an objective to head towards. There was the story of the Master, the Mistress. Bringing it down, though, it took a bit. Series 1 had an objective, which led through to Series 2 and 4. The story of Bad Wolf and all that, with Series 4 also having a heading just before the regeneration of 10 to 11, that being the Dr. Donna. Series 12 had a heading, but it wasn't slowly alluded to, leading to the finale episode being much more of a surprise, but not the good kind of surprise. I mean, in most, it's there. The issue is that you don't focus on it as much as it should be focused on. Again, JXC's The Fall of Doctor Who does a way better job at contextualizing this in a more direct manner, which is why I aimed you towards the video. You should watch it if you haven't. It's a 5-hour expose, but it's good. Another point is using the screwdriver less. If I know something, I don't have to pull out my phone, to express that I know this. Or maybe to show evidence, but At best, I look up what I don't know to confirm what I do know. Or, if that makes sense. This is what the screwdriver should be. A tool to expand or assure data. If it can already scan, light fires, pick locks, and so much more, if it did everything, you may as well call it Sonic Who. That sounds like a bad Doctor Who Sonic the Hedgehog crossover. Never... Actually... Is there a... Doctor Who X Sonic the Hedgehog crossover? Oh my god. It's like... It exists. There's so much. Whatever. My point is, the over-reliance of the sonic screwdriver is not good for the storytelling, and can make the Doctor seem too invincible or all-knowing. And doing that to a character is bad. Taking away from the tension and drama of the show. The point of it all. The writers need to find creative solutions to problems that don't always involve the sonic screwdriver, in order to keep the audience engaged and invested in the story, since that's the whole point of it all. Science fiction is a broad strokes genre. With all of the many titles and series that exist, none have touched upon as many subjects, scenarios, and more as Doctor Who has. It's got everything from film noir, hardcore sci-fi, the works. It's more adjacent to, say, Star Trek than Star Wars, but it's got a little bit of both if you really know where to look. I watched Doctor Who when I was in school, finding any excuse to not do my homework. And I fell in love. To the point, I literally had a dream where Peter Capaldi's Doctor took me on a trip in the Toyota interior TARDIS, that is a thing, look it up, in the style of A Christmas Carol, where he showed me my past, present, and future in the then. It's what inspired me to make sure I graduated from school and promptly college. And what I have going on now to become better. Besides dreams and love stories, and the love for the stories the toys are something to admire. Though easily broken, the sonic screwdrivers are my favorite toy from the series, from 9 and 10 Sonic, which extends upwards and made the sound that much more jittery, to 11th and 12th Sonic that sprung up and opened in a very dynamic manner that made it seem like a lightsaber when held in the right angle, and even 12's latest Sonic was a joy to behold. Mine's broken, by the way. I'm waiting on some money plus for the same software different case dude to respond and help me get it fixed. I say software different case, or SSDC. They have a whole YouTube channel. I'll post it somewhere here. Plus all the comics the series has made in tandem with the series are some of the more fun stories I've ever read. From the Anubis storyline, there's a whole story about an Anubis, to the one time that a musician traveled with the Doctor, they are some of the more fascinating stories outside of mainline Who. Not to mention the spin-offs. From Sarah Jane Adventures to Torchwood, which is it really, not like any other series really exists aside of that. Absolutely not. I don't think so. From what I know, that's all that exists. We could count Class, but I haven't watched it or care much for it. Also, if you count the Doctor Who Confidential when it still existed, that is a spin-off, I guess. But yeah, not that many. Oh yeah, Torchwood is a science fiction series that follows the exploits of a team of investigators led by the enigmatic Captain Jack Harkness, as they protect the Earth from extraterrestrials and supernatural threats, whilst the Sarah Jane Adventures is a children's science fiction series that follows the adventures of a former Doctor Who companion, Sarah Jane Smith, and her team of young helpers as they investigate alien activity on Earth and beyond. They each skew in a very different direction, with Torchwood being the grittier and more serious one, something like you watch in FX or Spike, and Sarah Jane Adventures being the more kid-friendly show, something like you watch in Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon. But interestingly enough, actually Disney. But interestingly enough, both series take their audiences very seriously, and don't try to make any slip-ups that could compromise themselves in the canon of the greater Doctor Who story. With the main reason being the show, the added bonus being the merchandise, along with the spin-offs and comics, and culminating with how the show addresses things seriously, up to a certain point of course. It is the reason why I love this show. From dinosaurs on a spaceship, literally that's the title of the episode, to the Daleks' invasion of Earth that happened in the LEGO Dimensions game, and even with its crappy implications at the time as children, which is another whole thing, these stories aim to do something a lot of media is afraid to do in a manner that is perfectly executed. Go above and beyond for the audience. They say it how it is because they know how it is from Series 1 issues on how television and everything, even if not that bad, can be harmful in one way or another. That being the episode where they went to Satellite 5 in the future. To the Series 8 confrontation on what it means to be a good person or a bad person. And in the end, not even talking about it, we're just talking about it. Because they don't need to talk about it. This show goes above and beyond to help us understand what is right and wrong in this life and others that could come. It is a masterpiece in its own right and deserves to be sung about to the heavens and back, as it has and more. This should be a series that is in the history books, for more reasons than just it's a series. There should be documentation beyond belief about this series. But that's just my opinion. At the time of this video being filmed, I am aware that the series will be returning, more or less, in 2024, with it having David Tennant at the helm and it being a 3-part special for everyone to enjoy. I'm thinking it might be a Christmas episode. I'm not sure where I heard or read this, but an excellent way for the series where Tennant is to return would be if he exclaims when he regenerates again, "I'm ready to go," in a parallel to how he finished Series 4 with the phrase, "I don't want to go." It would be a great parallel, and I hope the series actually does something similar to that. It would genuinely be great. And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you all guys very much for watching. Be sure to give this video a like if you liked it, comment down below what I should do next, and subscribe for more content. This video took longer than it needed to take. It is perplexing how long this took to make. I'm literally recording this in upload day, so I am screwed. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Hopefully something that isn't eldritch as much as this is in sci-fi. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.